They called her just the babysitter. Sighed she must have made a mistake. But sometimes the one closest to the child is the only one who sees what the grown-ups pretend not to. And when Maya found the handprint in the closet, the past she thought was buried started knocking again. When a quiet woman working as a live-in babysitter for a wealthy family in North Carolina is accused of negligence after the child vanishes, buried truths unravel, linking the case to a missing girl from her own past, long thought to be dead. But what no one expects is that the real criminal has been living in the house all along. Before we uncover today's case, a quick reminder. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single clue, twist, or breakthrough in the stories to come. Now, let's dive into the case. The first scream wasn't loud. It was clipped, contained, the kind of sound a mother makes when she wants to believe her child is just hiding playing a game. But when that scream broke into a second one, and then a third, the silence in the Grant household collapsed. Rain tapped the wide windows of the two-story colonial on Hawthorne Ridge Drive, the kind of neighborhood where every porch light matched and every whisper traveled 2 driveways over, where the grass stayed trimmed even during storms, and neighbors waved but rarely spoke longer than a minute. But something about that Monday afternoon felt ... off. The skies were gray, but not storm gray. The air was still, but not quiet. And Maya Green noticed it. She always noticed things. That was part of why the Grants had hired her. She stood in the kitchen holding a cup of chamomile tea, now cold, as Mrs. Grant's scream sliced through the hallway like a razor. "Ava?" The mug shattered when it hit the tile. Maya didn't flinch. Her body moved before her mind did, sprinting past the island, through the living room, up the stairs 2 steps at a time. The door to Ava's room was already open. The soft pink comforter crumpled. The stuffed giraffe that usually sat propped on the pillow lay on the floor. The closet was half open. And Ava was gone. Mrs. Grant was on her knees, rummaging under the bed, shrieking her daughter's name through sobs that made her voice almost unrecognizable. "She was just here," she cried. "She was right here with her crayons. I left for 2 minutes, Maya." Mr. Grant stormed in moments later, his black suit jacket still on, tie loosened, his eyes scanning the room like he was calculating the exact second this all went wrong. "She's in the damn house," he said tightly. "Check the closets, every room. The pantry, crawl space, now." Maya didn't speak. She couldn't. A chill had wrapped itself around her ribs like wire. Something didn't feel right. Not just wrong, but familiar. And she hated that feeling. She'd buried it. She searched every inch of the house with methodical precision. Kitchen cabinets, linen closet, garage, laundry chute. Nothing. Even the little space behind the curtains where Ava liked to hide during hide and seek. Gone. By the time the first police cruiser pulled up, Mrs. Grant was nearly incoherent. Officer Raines, a woman with a steely face and short hair tucked under a wet cap, led the response. She asked the standard questions. "When was the last time you saw her? Was the door locked? Any visitors today?" Then she looked at Maya. The officer's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "And you are?" "I'm her babysitter," Maya said, voice steady. "Just the babysitter?" the officer asked, pen hovering. Maya looked her straight in the eye. "I'm the one who puts her to bed when her parents are at galas. I'm the one who packs her school snacks so her lunchbox won't be boring. I taught her to braid." So no, I'm not just anything. The officer said nothing, just jotted something down in the notebook, lips pressed thin. Within hours, the neighborhood was swarmed with cruisers. An Amber Alert sounded, and the Grant's perfect life turned into the lead story on the local news. But what they didn't know, what Maya never told anyone, was that this wasn't the first time a little girl disappeared around her. Not the first time a locked closet had something buried behind it. Not the first time someone blamed her. That night, after the police were gone, and the Grants finally collapsed in their master bedroom upstairs, whispers trailing behind closed doors, Maya stayed in Ava's room, sitting on the floor, listening to the silence. And then she saw it, a small handprint, on the inside of the closet door. Not fresh, faint, dusty, but it was Ava's. She knew because of the way her pinky finger curved slightly inward, a detail she'd only noticed while painting Ava's nails weeks ago. But the thing that made Maya's breath catch in her throat, made the hairs on her arms rise, wasn't the handprint. It was the initials carved faintly beneath it. G. Her own initials. And she had no memory of ever scratching them there. The sound of the rain changed sometime after midnight. It no longer tapped, it scraped, as if tiny fingernails dragged across the glass panes. The house had gone quiet again, but not the peaceful kind of quiet. This was the kind of silence that came after a scream, after a storm, the kind that carried tension like static in the walls. Maya sat frozen in Ava's closet, her knees drawn in. The scent of crayon wax and fabric softener lingered in the confined space, clashing with something older, something musty. That handprint, those carved initials. MG. It wasn't possible. She had never scratched her name into this door, never had a reason to. And yet, the lines were aged, not fresh, worn down by time and dust. Her fingertips hovered over the initials, barely grazing them. Splinters pressed into the pads of her fingers, and behind her, the pink nightlight plugged into the wall cast a faint, uneven glow across the room. She whispered to herself, almost inaudibly, "What the hell is happening?" She felt it again, that strange weight, not fear exactly, more like the tremor of memory when it tries to rise from somewhere you swore you buried, somewhere beneath years of therapy, silence, and starting over. Maya stood, pulling the closet door wider. Something rattled inside. She crouched, reaching behind a row of Ava's dresses, fingers brushing against a cardboard edge. A box. Old, dented, duct tape frayed on the corners. The kind of box that didn't belong to a child. She dragged it out slowly. Her heart thudded against her chest. The top flap was sealed with strips of gray tape, but one edge had come loose. She peeled it open. Dust burst out, coating her hands in powdery gray. Inside were layers of items she didn't recognize. And one she did. A purple plastic barrette, cracked down the middle. She hadn't seen that barrette since she was 9 years old. Since her own disappearance. Her mouth went dry. Maya Green had once been known by a different name. Malia Jean Goodwin, foster system ID number 441,882. She'd been removed from a home at the edge of Durham after being found alone in a locked closet for nearly 36 hours, dehydrated, confused, and clutching a small purple barrette. The authorities claimed she'd wandered off and hidden from an abusive babysitter, a case that was quickly buried under the weight of bureaucracy and sealed records. But Maya remembered none of that. Only flashes. A dark room, a humming noise, the sound of breathing that wasn't hers. And now, this box. She pulled out a folded photo creased so many times the image had lines through the faces. It showed two little girls, around 6 or 7, sitting side by side in matching green jumpers on a stoop that looked a lot like the side porch of the Grant house. The image was warped by time, but Maya's stomach turned when she recognized her own face. The other girl? She didn't remember. On the back, in blocky kid handwriting, it read, "Me and MJ, best sisters forever." There was no date, no explanation. Just two girls, one forgotten, and a sister. Maya's hands trembled. Downstairs, the house creaked. A floorboard near the hallway. Someone was awake. She hurriedly tucked the contents back into the box, pressing the flap shut and sliding it under Ava's bed just as light footsteps came up the stairs. She stepped out into the hallway to see Mr. Grant, shirtless under his robe, standing near the hallway window, smoking a cigarette. The smoke coiled lazily around the overhead light, casting a twisted shadow along the ceiling. He turned slowly when he heard her. "You still here?" he asked, voice calm, too calm. "I couldn't sleep," Maya said, keeping her tone neutral. "Ava's room feels ... wrong." His eyes lingered on her longer than necessary. Then he nodded, looking past her. "Yeah, ... that's been a long night." He took another drag, then flicked the ash into the corner planter. "You were with her all day, weren't you?" "I was. No one came by?" "No one." Silence settled again. Then he said, almost casually, "You know, the closet in that room used to have a second panel in the back. Previous owners sealed it off after they moved in. Said it led to the crawl space." Maya blinked. "I didn't see a panel. Most people wouldn't. But you grew up in old houses like this, right?" His eyes narrowed slightly, as if trying to pry something loose from her face. She didn't answer. He smiled thinly. "Some things stay hidden because they need to be." And with that, he turned and walked back toward the master bedroom. Maya didn't sleep. Couldn't. By morning, the news vans were parked along the street. Reporters buzzing. Neighbors whispering in their robes with coffee in hand. The Grants put on the grieving parent face in front of cameras. The police returned with sniffer dogs and warrants. And Maya waited for the right moment. At noon, she returned to Ava's room, locked the door, and went back into the closet. Her hands moved along the baseboard this time, tapping gently. Then she heard it. A hollow thud. One plank, just a little different than the others. She pressed it, and the board gave way, revealing a narrow gap, just wide enough for a child. And inside it, dust, scraps of paper, a child's sock, and an old rusted locket. Inside the locket were two small pictures, one of Maya, the other the same girl from the photograph. On the inside of the locket's lid was engraved, "Find me before he does." Maya's breath caught in her throat, because suddenly she realized this wasn't just about Ava. It was about her. Someone had brought her here for a reason, and someone else had been waiting. The news anchors called it a tragedy. The neighbors called it a terrible accident. The Grants called it a nightmare. But Maya called it familiar. The way people avoid your eyes when they think you're guilty, but haven't said it out loud yet. The way their sympathy hardens into suspicion with each passing hour. By Wednesday morning, she wasn't the sweet sitter anymore. She was the last one to see Ava alive. The box under Ava's bed stayed untouched. The locket now lived in Maya's jeans pocket, the cold metal burning against her skin like a ticking clock. At 6:42 a.m., she slipped out the side door. The Grants had an expansive backyard manicured hedges, a white stone path, and a fenced-in garden they never used. The soil was dry, cracked. A few tomato plants that had long since died off stood like little ghosts near the fence. But Maya wasn't here to check the garden. She'd noticed something strange on the security monitor the day before, an angle of the back fence that blinked to black every few seconds. She knew what that meant. Someone had tampered with the footage. She followed the edge of the fence until she found the camera mounted on the tree. Half the casing was melted. A thin wire dangled, its end neatly sliced, not torn. Somebody didn't want anyone seeing what came in or out of here, she whispered. Then she saw the trail. It was faint, just a slight indent in the grass, like someone had walked through here, dragging something small behind them. The line curved away from the house and led to the farthest corner of the yard, to the overgrown rose bushes at the back. She crouched down and froze. Beneath the bush was a footprint, small, Ava-sized, still soft in the damp earth. And next to it, half buried in the soil, was a silver charm from the bracelet Ava wore every day. Maya picked it up. Her hand trembled. Then she heard it. A cough, hoarse, faint. She turned fast, heart slamming. There, standing across the fence, just behind the overgrowth, was a woman in a navy headwrap and oversized sweatshirt, holding pruning shears. The neighbor. "I seen her," the woman said flatly. Maya stepped closer. "You saw who?" The woman's eyes narrowed. "The lil one, 2 nights ago. She ran out that yard, shoeless, crying. That same night the storm came." Maya's breath caught. "Where did she go?" The woman nodded toward the woods beyond the property line. Toward them trees. "But that man came after her." "What man?" The woman hesitated, looked around. Then she said softly, "He live in that house with you, but he don't sleep like the rest of 'em." Back inside the house, the kitchen smelled like burnt toast and cheap cologne. Mr. Grant sat at the counter with his laptop open, eyes scanning the local coverage. His face was calm, but Maya noticed the slight twitch in his jaw every time the newscaster said Ava's name. "You've been up early," he said, sipping coffee. "So have you," Maya replied. He smirked, not looking up. "Can't sleep." "My daughter's missing." Maya said nothing. Instead, she looked at the fridge covered in artwork and family photos. There was a photo pinned to the corner one she hadn't noticed before. It was faint, old. A group photo from what looked like a summer camp. But behind the smiling kids, Maya's eyes locked on a blurry background figure. A little girl, standing half hidden behind a tree, not smiling. Her. And next to her, the same girl from the other photo. The same girl in the locket. That made 2 separate photos, same mystery child. Maya stepped closer, her voice low. "Who took this?" Mr. Grant glanced up. "That? Some old thing from my brother's files. He used to work with a foster agency." "Why? You are in touch with my old foster system?" His eyes flicked up, a second too slow. "Not personally." She nodded slowly. "Right," and walked away. By noon, she was back in Ava's room. She waited until she heard both parents leave Mrs. Grant to the press conference, Mr. Grant to a private meeting. Then she locked the bedroom door and reopened the floorboard in the closet. This time she went in. It was tighter than she remembered. Dust scraped her elbows. Cobwebs clung to her sleeves, but on the other side it opened into a square crawl space. The air smelled like mildew and old plastic. In the far corner, barely visible through the shadows, was a folded sleeping bag, and next to it a small flashlight, a water bottle, and a piece of paper. She turned on the light and unfolded the note. Child handwriting again. Trembling. If you find this, please don't tell him. I didn't mean to break the rule. I just wanted the truth. Taped to the back of the paper was a tiny Polaroid. Ava, standing next to the same mystery girl from before, in the Grant backyard, and they were both holding hands with someone behind them, a tall man. His face turned away. But Maya knew that watch, that expensive leather strap. It was Mr. Grant's. She crawled out fast, heart in her throat. Something was deeply wrong. Someone had lied. And someone had tried to erase all trace of another girl Ava had been seeing. The sister, the ghost, the missing piece. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You should have stayed, just the babysitter. And attached? A live photo. Ava, eyes red, in a dim room with metal walls. Behind her, a wooden door. And carved into it, just faintly letters Maya couldn't deny. G. By nightfall, the house was breathing secrets. The Grants had gone quiet again, too. Quiet. Mrs. Grant hadn't returned from the press conference. Mr. Grant was somewhere in the study with the door locked. A low murmur of voices leaking from beneath the wood like smoke from a fire. Maya sat on the edge of the bathtub upstairs, the photo still open on her phone. Her hands trembled as she zoomed in. Metal walls, exposed pipes, no windows. It didn't match anywhere in the house she'd seen, except she remembered something. 2 weeks ago, Ava had told her about a room under the stairs where she wasn't allowed to go. Said her dad kept old files there. It smells like ghosts, Ava had whispered, nose wrinkling. And there's a door that doesn't have a handle. At the time, Maya had brushed it off as kid talk. Now she wasn't so sure. She slipped out of the bathroom and crept down the back stairs, careful not to hit the creaky fourth step. The hallway was dark, but a sliver of light glowed beneath the study door. She kept walking. At the end of the hallway was a linen closet, and just to the left of that, behind a coat rack, was a section of the wall that always seemed odd, not quite flush with the rest, the paint slightly off color. She pressed her hand against it. Nothing. Then she crouched and felt along the baseboard. There, a groove. She wedged her fingers in, pulling gently, and the panel gave way with a dusty groan. Behind it was a narrow passageway lined with concrete, barely wide enough for one person. She stepped in, pulled the panel closed behind her. Dark. She clicked on her phone flashlight and kept walking. The hallway dipped downward, sloping into the bowels of the house. The temperature dropped. Her breath started to fog. At the bottom, she found it. A steel door. Old, scratched, with no handle, but someone had been here recently. The floor was clean swept. There were faint footprints in the dust, Ava's size. Maya leaned close. The door had faint carvings on it, tiny lines etched into the metal like a code. And then there it was again. MG. Only this time there were 2 sets of initials. G and AG. Ava Grant. She ran her fingers along the frame, searching for any kind of latch or mechanism. Nothing. But as her hand brushed the corner, something clicked and the door popped slightly outward. Maya froze. She could hear breathing, not hers, on the other side. Then a soft voice, barely a whisper. "Are you her?" The door creaked open. Inside was a room lined with concrete and metal, just like the photo. In the corner, under a single hanging bulb, sat a girl, bare feet, tangled curls, big, watchful eyes. But it wasn't Ava. It was the other girl, from the photo, from the locket, from Maya's lost memory. She couldn't have been older than 10, but there was something timeless in her eyes, something that looked back too deeply. Maya swallowed hard. "Who are you?" The girl stood slowly. I was her first. "Who's first?" The girl tilted her head. "The man who owns this house. He said I was practice." Maya's stomach turned. The girl walked forward, feet making no sound. "He said if I stayed quiet, he'd bring my sister. But then he brought Ava instead." Maya's heart pounded. "Are you my sister?" The girl's eyes flickered. "I was supposed to be." "But you forgot." "I didn't forget," Maya whispered. "They took it from me. They tried," the girl said. "But not everything fades." Maya stepped closer, her voice shaking. "Where's Ava?" The girl pointed behind a rusted cabinet. Maya rushed over, heart thudding, and yanked it aside. A small crawl space, a blanket, a half-empty juice box, and carved into the wall. "Maya came. I'm hiding." "S-H-H-H. She's still in the house," the girl said softly. "But not here." Maya turned. "How did you survive down here?" "She left food sometimes. The wife. Before she forgot me, too." Maya's mind spun. "You mean Mrs. Grant knew?" "She knows everything," the girl whispered. "But she stopped asking questions. Because it's easier to sleep." Maya closed her eyes for a beat, fury rising in her chest like fire in a locked room. This wasn't just a kidnapping. It was a repetition, a cycle, a story buried and played again, just with new names, new girls, new silence. Maya pulled the girl into a tight hug. "We're getting out of here." Then she heard footsteps. Above, heavy, measured. The creak of the fourth stair. She looked up at the ceiling and the girl whispered, "That's him." The fourth stair groaned again. The sound moved slow, controlled, like a man who already knew where you were, like a man who had done this before. Maya's mind raced. She turned off her flashlight and pulled the little girl back into the dark, hand pressed gently over her mouth. The room was pitch black now, save for the flicker of that bare bulb swinging from the ceiling. It cast erratic shadows on the concrete walls, shadows that danced like ghosts with too much memory. Above them, another step creaked. Then the sound of a key turning. "He's coming into the hallway." Maya whispered into the girl's ear. "Is there another way out?" The girl nodded. "Just once." Then slipped from Maya's grip and crawled beneath the low shelf that lined the far wall. She reached behind it and pressed something. A grinding noise filled the room. A hidden panel slid open, just wide enough for a child, or for someone small and desperate enough to try. Maya ducked down, heart pounding. The girl was already crawling into the darkness beyond the wall. But before Maya followed, she turned back toward the main door. She couldn't leave it open, not yet. Not with him coming. She crept back across the room, braced herself, and pulled the steel door closed, just as footsteps echoed at the top of the stairwell. Click. The hidden panel shut behind her, plunging everything into black. They crawled through the narrow tunnel in silence. The air was damp and metallic. Pipes ran overhead, dripping occasionally. After what felt like minutes, they reached another panel. A girl pressed her palm to it. "It only opens from this side." The panel popped open with a soft thud. They emerged into a storage room in the basement, the unfinished side. Boxes were stacked floor to ceiling. Paint cans, unused furniture, and behind it all, a metal filing cabinet with a padlock hanging loose. Maya stared at the cabinet. Something about it screamed off limits. She turned to the girl. "Did he ever bring you here?" She shook her head. "But I heard him come here late at night, whispering names." Maya stepped forward and opened the top drawer. It was full of manila folders, unlabeled, just numbers on each tab. She flipped one open. Case file. MJG Malia Zhang Goodwin status. Transferred. Notes. Exhibited strong memory retention. Recommended for long-term observation. Foster placement. Redacted. Medical. Redacted behavioral adjustment. Incomplete. Final recommendation. To be reassessed after sibling phase. Her vision blurred. Another folder. A.G.A. Grant. Date of birth. Correct. Parental guardian. Adoptive placement. Approved. Adjustment phase. Pending. Phase 2 initiation date. This week. Her hands shook. They weren't her real parents. The girl looked down. No one ever is. Maya opened the bottom drawer. Inside were photographs. Dozens. Some printed from security footage. Some Polaroids. Some drawn in crayon. Each one showed a child. Some were sleeping. Some were crying. None were smiling. And in the corner of each photo was a hand-drawn symbol 3 intersecting triangles inside a circle. Maya had seen it before. It was the same mark carved into the underside of Ava's bedframe. She dropped the folder, her pulse pounding in her ears. The Grants weren't just hiding Ava. They were part of something larger, something systematic. Suddenly, footsteps again. This time heavier, closer, but not upstairs. Inside the basement. Maya turned, eyes darting. They had no time. She shoved the folders into a large satchel by the wall, grabbed the girl's hand, and sprinted through the opposite door, the one that led to the laundry room. She slipped the lock quietly behind her. Footsteps entered the storage room seconds later. She pressed her back against the washer, heart hammering, listening. The voice on the other side of the door was low, but clear. "Mr. Grant." "She knows. I found the panel open. The girl's gone too." We move up the timeline. A pause, a rustle of papers. "No, she's not a threat. She's a trigger. She was always meant to find this." Silence. Then he said it softly, like a promise, like a curse. "We always circle back to the forgotten ones. That's how we keep control." Maya waited until the footsteps retreated before moving again. She and the girl crept out of the laundry room and back into the main hall. The light was soft now early morning bleeding into the sky. The entire house felt like it was holding its breath. Back upstairs, she checked Ava's room again. The bed untouched. The giraffe still on the floor. But on the windowsill, someone had left a note, folded, unmarked. She opened it. In Ava's handwriting. "He said you'd come. I'm in the place with the red light. Please come before the door closes again." That place with the red light. Maya's eyes darted to the security system monitor in the hallway. One camera in the corner blinked red. Camera 9. The one facing the detached pool house. The one that had gone dark 3 days ago. The wind pushed hard against Maya's back as she crossed the lawn. The sky had cracked open with morning light, but it brought no warmth, only tension. Silence held the neighborhood like a noose. The pool house sat at the far end of the yard, detached, disguised behind hedges and a row of flowering dogwoods. From the outside, it looked abandoned, shutters slightly warped, paint curling at the edges. But above the side entrance, just as Ava's note had said, was a small red bulb glowing like an open wound. Maya reached for the handle. Locked. She didn't hesitate. One hard kick beneath the doorknob, and the old wood cracked with a sharp pop. The door creaked open, and a wave of cold, stale air rushed out. She stepped inside. The floor was concrete, unsealed, a table in the middle. Shelves lined with bins and manila folders. A space too neat for storage, too cold for comfort. And against the far wall, beneath the glowing red light, was a steel door, identical to the one below the house, except this one had a keypad, and below it, carved deep into the metal, "Man G plus AG equals, remember me?" Maya stared at it. Her chest caved inward. This was no coincidence. This was intentional. Suddenly, a noise inside. Soft, rhythmic, breathing. She approached slowly, palms sweating. Then, Ava's voice. "Maya?" Her knees buckled. "Ava? I'm here. It's really dark. My hand hurts. I'm coming, baby. Just hold on." She scanned the keypad. 4 digits. She looked at the carving again. MG plus IG. Then it clicked. 623. Ava's birthday. She punched in the numbers. The lock hissed. The door cracked open. And there she was. Ava, curled in the corner of the small room, wrapped in a blanket. Pale, tear-streaked, but alive. Maya ran in, dropping to her knees, cradling the little girl in her arms. "It's over. I got you. You're safe." Ava clung to her, shaking. "I heard him come in. I thought he was going to take me somewhere else." Maya swallowed hard. Not this time. Behind them, the light above the door flickered, and then voices outside. 2 of them. Low, male. One was Mr. Grant. The other, unmistakably, was a social worker Maya hadn't seen in over 20 years. His voice still carried that clipped, clinical cadence. "She's too close to the truth. That girl down there, the one they call her sister, was the first test subject after Maya was reassigned." Mr. Grant hissed, "I told you bringing Ava in would accelerate the pattern. She remembers more than we thought. We clean it up, like we always do." Maya scanned the small room and found a vent behind a cabinet. She looked at Ava, then whispered, "We're leaving. But we're not running. You understand?" Ava nodded, trying to be brave. Maya pulled out her phone and hit record. She slid it through the cracked door, just far enough to capture the conversation outside. Their voices, their faces, their words, all of it. When the men stepped away, Maya and Ava moved, out the vent, behind the pool house, down the fence line. 3 hours later, Maya walked into the Charlotte Police Department with Ava beside her, clutching her hand. She didn't ask for permission. She walked straight to the front desk and placed the satchel of documents, photos, audio recordings, and the flash drive of camera footage on the counter. The sergeant behind the glass looked up, confused. "This is for special victims. It involves a child trafficking ring. A cover-up, sealed foster files. And the man running it is one of your largest local donors. The sergeant's brows shot up. And who are you? Maya looked him square in the eye. I'm the girl they buried, the babysitter they blamed, and the witness they didn't count on surviving. 6 months later, courtroom 5B. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as Mr. Grant was led in, shackled and pale. Behind him, 3 more arrests followed: 2 former foster care administrators and 1 former CPS field agent. The evidence had unspooled like thread from a slit coat pocket. A pattern of missing girls across 3 counties. All from the system. All with behavioral notes marked "needs supervision" or "nonverbal history." All processed through a special program tied to Grant's foundation. In the front row, Maya sat beside Ava, holding her hand. The girl had grown stronger, more open. She painted again, sang softly when she got nervous. Behind them sat the girl from the basement, now in a new foster home, protected, seen, finally called by her real name, Jayla. Mrs. Grant never showed. She'd disappeared 2 days before the first arrest. No one had found her since. When the judge sentenced Mr. Grant to life without parole, Maya didn't clap. She just exhaled. It wasn't about revenge. It was about truth, and giving every girl they tried to erase a name again. Epilogue: 1 year later. The nonprofit was small, tucked into a narrow storefront beside a bookstore in East Charlotte. Its name was stenciled in gold across the glass. The Remember Me Project. Inside, Maya helped Jayla hang up a drawing, a picture of 3 girls holding hands under a sky full of stars. No cages, no locks, no red lights, just open sky. And beneath the drawing, in Ava's handwriting, "We are not forgotten. We are still here." The end. Some stories don't end with a verdict. They echo in quiet rooms, in broken trust, in lives forever altered. This wasn't just a case file. It was a warning about what happens when fear replaces facts, when systems protect themselves, and when good people look away because it's easier. What happened here could happen anywhere, because injustice doesn't need a reason, just an opening. So if this story reached you, don't let it vanish. Speak up. Share it. Start the ripple. Because every time we shine a light, we take power from the shadows. And maybe, just maybe, the next story won't end the same. Like, comment, share. Let your voice join the case.